Hi, welcome back. Have you ever thought about a move to America but don't know where to begin?
We get lots of messages asking us where to begin, and so have decided to do a new video series after 2 years of living here. We're going to cover the basics of where to start. We'll also talk about how we got here. Is there anything that we would have done differently? And just general advice for you guys based on all the questions you've sent us. In this video today, we're going to start with 5 basic things to get you on your way.
Number 1 on the list, and this is the big one, the visa. Visas come in all shapes and sizes, and you might come over on a family visa, you might come over on a lottery type visa, which a lot of our viewers have actually came over on. Often it's a work type visa that people will come over on, like us. Selena came over on a work type visa. I'm basically a child because I'm a dependent. so that's how we got here.
There are 2 types of visas to be aware of. Immigrant, which is the holy grail of the green card, which makes you a permanent resident here in the USA. We say permanent. With caveats.
There's always caveats with Americans.
And then there's the non-immigrant visa types. And surprisingly, a lot more people come in on those types because it's a lot easier. The length of time it takes isn't as long as the green card process. Typically on a non-immigrant visa and then apply for a green card later.
The immigrant visas are generally what people understand as green card visas. And there are different types and categories within the green card. A green card visa is not one thing. Non-immigrant visas are work, student, professors, things like that.
I think tourist visas are considered non-immigrant.
Obviously, a tourist visa is much more limited in time, usually 3 months or 5 years maybe, whereas a work type non-immigrant visa is usually a little bit longer than that, maybe 7 years or 10 years.
One thing I do want to point out, and this is really based on the messages we have got, do not think you can come here on a tourist visa and find work. And actually do not do that because
you can do it, but it's highly illegal and will affect you. If you get caught, the minimum bans, I think, in the US are about 10 years to life.
So definitely be very careful. If you are looking to come over to the US as a tourist, genuinely do that, but don't come here looking for work. The other thing that you need to look into as you're investigating what type of visa is right for you is the impact for your dependents. So if you've got children, a spouse, those are the things that you need to consider in terms of can they come over with you? What's the regulation about them getting a work permit or not a work permit on that type of visa? And we say this a lot, get an immigration attorney. We're giving this advice, but we are not the ones to advise you on what's the right type of visa.
Number 2. Finances. Finances can be particularly tricky when moving to the US as a non-immigrant or an immigrant. It's very difficult here. So these are some of the things we would suggest you consider when moving here. First up is, does the country you're moving from have a tax treaty with the US? If it does, it makes life a little bit easier for you. What that will allow is that you'll never be double taxed, even if you earn money and you continue to earn money in your home country. If you do not have a tax treaty with the US, it becomes very complex. You may actually have to pay 2 lots of taxes.
We actually know somebody that's had to go through that process when they moved over. It's definitely not a nice one.
Even if you have a tax treaty with the US, you probably still need to file taxes in both countries if you continue to earn money in your home country or other countries. Let's say you have a business in the UK, but you earn salaried income in the US and you own a home in France. You probably need to file in all 3 countries, and it becomes tricky if they run different tax years. So the US, I think, is a calendar year. The UK is March to March or April to April?
April to April.
April to April. So you end up filing with one, then filing with the next one and having to claim back the tax from the one that you've already paid it in. So it's really something you need to either wrap your head around or speak to a tax attorney about.
And that really does just depend on your personal situation. If you are somebody that's just relocating with your work and you're not going to have any financial obligations back home, then it's not such a big deal. But if you are going to be like us, we've got property back in the UK where we get a rental income, those are things that you truly do need to consider with the move. Another consideration in terms of your finances is where you're going to move in the USA, because each state has different rules around the taxation on your income. So there's federal tax across the USA, but then there's certain states like where we are in Nevada that have 0 income tax, which is fantastic. So that is definitely something that you need to consider. Let's say if you're going to California or New York, you're going to be paying higher taxes on your income overall. Another aspect is banking, and I know if we really considered this initially with the move, but we definitely knew we wanted to have a main bank account that we were using in the UK UK to get our income. But not only that, if you're traveling back and forth between home, which is home is still the UK for me in my head, and the USA, it's nice to have some local currency there. But also, let's say there are events or you're ordering presents for family back home, just having that UK bank account for us is very useful. And that is just something that you'll need to consider with the move as well.
Number 3, criminal record. Don't have one.
Real simple.
It's very simple. If you do, it doesn't mean you can't get here. It does mean you're going to go through a very protracted application and vetting process. It becomes potentially something that can take years instead of weeks or months.
That's very true, and it's easy for us to say not have one, but a lot of people will have some form of a minor offence, and all that means is you're going to have to find the paperwork, the court dates, what exactly it was as part of your application process. The great thing is we know lots of people with minor convictions that have moved over to the USA.
That makes it sound like we only know criminals.
I'm thinking more driving offences because they're very common.
That's the point. It's even if they're driving offences, and even if you come from a country like we do, where we have the Rehabilitation Act, which might make it seem like you don't have a criminal record, but according to the US you do. They don't have a Rehabilitation Act. So even though it's dropped off of your We Can See It record, it still exists in the secondary record.
So if you have not got a criminal record yet or a driving offence, try and keep it that way. But if you do, you can still go through finding a visa. You will still get to the USA. I say that, it depends on how bad your offences are.
Number 4, healthcare. This one is probably the most confusing for everybody, including myself. It is a very complex and convoluted system they have in the US. Whether or not it's good or bad is kind of secondary. Just trying to work out what is available to you, who you go via, how much it's going to cost you, what's included, what's not, is very difficult.
We get lots of questions asking us about healthcare and do we think it's the right thing for their particular family given the ailments that they have. There is no issue with coming over to the USA if you have a chronic illness, but definitely do your research, and it depends on the type of health plan you're on. So if you are moving with a company, do ask them what's covered, what medical plans they have on offer, so that you can understand whether you can cover your dependents, your partner during that process, because it is so different for everyone state by state here. Especially if you have a chronic illness, when you are going through the process of the move, definitely stock up on your medication, because there's going to be a period when you're moving and you've just landed to the USA where navigating and working out who to contact from your plan, who your physician is, it's going to take time. So definitely come across with any meds that you need, just so that you can see yourself for the next few months without any real concerns.
Additional things that you need to consider are, if you are being employed by a company, that's fine. You can kind of go to your company and ask them what options are available to you. But if you have your own business or you're coming over for a different reason, a student, you really need to research the location. So each state is different, and even within the state, you may have different options available to you. What programs are available to you? And within those programs, which part of those will cover the issues or ailments, as Selena says, that you may have? Number 5. And finally, is preparation. There's so much you can and should do ahead of time. Some of them we've already mentioned. So it's consult a tax attorney, consult an immigration lawyer or attorney. Make sure you do research on things like banks. Are you able to transfer money from your home bank to your US bank, or do you need to use an intermediary like TransferWise?
The other one that you might not be thinking about is getting your documentation ready. So this is whether it's your certificates from your past education, marriage certificates, healthcare records, dental records, birth certificate, all of those things get in order, because you will need it for the visa application, but also when you get here. So when you're going for medicals, it's really useful to get that whilst you're back in your home country rather than trying to do it from the USA.
And we know this. So I did not know there were 2 types of birth certificate. I had my original paper with a wet signature, and I had to order from the UK. It's really fast. Our system's really good. I think it was a week or 10 days. I had to order the full birth certificate. I can't remember what it was for now, but...
Green card.
Green card. You are also required to provide all of your medical history all the way back to when you were a baby.
So they know all your immunisations and jabs. And I know lots of people that have moved here that have not come with all of that. and it just makes it a lot harder. Another thing to do is research where you might want to live in the USA if you have that freedom. Obviously, if you're moving with a company, you might not be as flexible, but the USA is absolutely vast in its options of whether you want to live in the city, up in the mountains, by the beach, somewhere hot and humid, somewhere that gets all season. Lots of options, so definitely research what state you think is right for you.
Or do it my way, list all of the states that have no state income tax.
That's one way of doing
Work through that list. If you don't love all of those, still just pick one from that list and learn to love it. You'll save so much money. Finally, research your moving options. For us, we had a 4-bedroom house that we needed to move. Fortunately, Selena's company provided the money for that, so they paid for the move. Otherwise, I think it would have been around 12 or 13,000 pounds. So it might be, if that's too much or there's stuff that you don't really want to take with you, better off selling, downsizing before you move here, because it'll be way cheaper for you to buy some of these things on the other side. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and it's helpful for you on your journey to America or the USA. Different people say different things. What do we say? USA?
I say the US.
Our next video is going to be about how we personally moved here and some of the tips and tricks that we learned along the way that we wish we knew before moving.
If you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thanks for watching.